So Brenda, can you please tell me what business you own for those of you who might not know out there?
Yes, I own the Ballet Academy of South Texas, downtown on Main Street. And I'm also the executive director of Victoria Ballet Theater.
That's amazing. So how did you get into that? Like what led you to wanting to open a business like that?
Well, it was the next step from a long line of steps. I was in a transitional period, and I had been working for my mentor and teacher for many years, and it was time to step out and open a new business, and that's what I did right there downtown.
And so how did that feel to step away from something you'd been doing so long and to venture out on your own?
It was terrifying. It was not my original plan. Let me see. So we were actually in conversations for me to purchase the business I had been working at, and that didn't go well, and so I ended up opening up separately. So I had the benefit of learning for many years and a lot of knowledge, but that next step, because when that didn't work out, I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to go back to teaching, because I used to teach school. And I thought, oh, I'll start subbing, and what am I going to do? I was still directing the ballet theater. I just didn't have a second job, which is how it works in the arts, right? And so I was going to go back to school teaching, and I had some really great friends and mentors. Eric and Vanessa Heinold are really great friends of mine, and mentors in this business area, as well as Don Poor. And they said, well, you have a business plan, you have everything, why don't you just tweak it a little and open something from scratch? So,
well, and that's amazing, because I think it touches on something that some people would view as a failure. It didn't work out. It actually led you to your destination you were supposed to be at.
No, everything happens for a reason. I completely believe that. And the universe provides. It put the right people in my life at the right time, and led me on the path. And it was just being able to say, okay, instead of keeping to knock at that door to go to the next one.
And so what kind of, we're going to get some background on you for those of you who might not know about Brenda, where she grew up, because I think that's important to know where people come from and where they are now. So where did you grow up? And tell me a little bit about your family as well.
I'm Victoria, born and raised.
Woohoo, native, I love it.
For sure. My parents are here, Brenda and Robert Sarata, and Dad loves to tell the story about when I was born. And I hate to stomp on it, because he'll tell it again anyway. But that that when he came out of the delivery room on Saturday night, that my grandfather said I was going to be a dancer, because I was born just in time for the Saturday night dance.
Oh, I love
and
that.
So when I got really hyperactive at the age of 3, they knew it was time to put me in dance. And that's where I've been ever since. Yeah, and Dad was on the board of the YMCA. They tried me in every single sport. And I wholeheartedly rejected every single sport. So there was no other path. And then, I danced all through high school. I was in the Victoria Ballet Theater when it started in 1984 as a 10-year-old, the first junior company. And if Debbie Busby hadn't started that organization, if we hadn't had that gift here in Victoria, I would not have had the same path, because ballet and dance were my window to the world. I traveled, I got to see and meet people from other places. The Ballet Theater always brought in guest artists from all over the world, and I knew, oh my gosh, if I do this, I get to do what I like and travel and meet interesting people and create new things. And so when it came time to graduate from high school, I knew I wanted to continue dance in college.
Well, and it's so neat to hear that this has been your passion pretty much since you were born. I mean, they said it at the beginning. How wonderful is that? That's so cool. And you're doing what you love, but not only doing what you love, one of the things I super adore about you is that you also do so much for this community, and you're so passionate about it, and you're always open and willing to help others. She comes to our coffee and concepts and, is just so involved, and that's really something special, because you're not just a business owner, somebody who lives in the community. You're always thinking of, how can I help others? How can I give back? And I just want to take a moment to really give you a shout out for that, because that is something special and unique. And you take time for people. I always notice she takes the time. She's busy, and then she stops what she's doing, and she always focuses and really listens to people. And I remember during the art walk, she provides her space for the art walk. She's always like, I got a space. Come on, you guys use it for different events in town. But what was fantastic is she's busy, and she's like, Krista, come in my office. Come talk to me. She's like, look at this set that I'm building. And tell them how that works when you build a set. It's not just when you're doing a ballet and you're doing these things, you don't get a script handed to you. This is a whole thing.
Yeah, that's not me building the set, though, for sure.
A little model. You're working on the little model.
The little bitty part that
She brought out this model. It was so cool. I was like, whoa, that's like almost a little city in itself. And she was telling me about all the things. It was really neat.
I will say, though, first about what you addressed in terms of, like, giving. I really feel that I am a product of this community. And so many people from my early childhood poured into me over and over again. I mean, I went to school downtown at Nazareth Academy. I used to walk downtown. I used to walk through this building where a banker stopped me and taught me about collecting coins. And then we'd go to the library until my mom would pick me up. And the librarian there invested in us, taught me and my friends how to make a kite out of a book. Like, it was constant people pouring into me in school, teachers. And so I really feel like that's so important. That's one thing about Victoria. I'm sure in other towns it happens. I don't know about these other towns. I know about Victoria. And so many people get that here, and I feel like it's a legacy to pass on to, like, now I have to gift it back. But in terms of Alice in Wonderland, yeah, there was no script. That was crazy. We decided about a year ago that, I say we, with the Ballet Theater and myself, that I would embark on creating a new ballet. I had a lot of wonderful collaborators, starting with a gentleman by the name of Michael Landez. I'm going to call him a gentleman because I want to call him a kid, but he's not. I started teaching him when he was 15 at the Joffrey Workshop in San Antonio, Texas, and he is now a PhD candidate at Northwestern in dance research. But we've collaborated on some other projects, and we decided we'd try this. And he was my creative director for the project, which means he helped keep me on track. He had the concept for the set and projections, if you saw the show, and this is the first time I think we have done an original ballet at Victoria Ballet Theater since our very first Nutcracker in 1985.
Wow.
Yeah, with sets and costumes and new choreography and music, and it would have not been possible without the support of, like, our board of directors and patrons and people that, like, because it's not cheap. It's not. And the kids who were so game for it and so open, because we started last summer with plans for sets and things like that, and then I did research with the books, and then Nina DeLeo, who's here, was my dramaturg, so she helped me like craft everything down to, like, what scenes are we going to use and where's the intermission going to go, and then I knew I had a composer in mind that I knew I wanted to use, but I had to, like, scour all of his recordings to pull pieces to put together, because there was not there is an Alice soundtrack, or there's an Alice score, but I don't like it. So this composer spoke to me, and so I pulled all the music, and I think about last fall I had completed that, like, I knew my score. But we didn't get into the studio to rehearse until January.
Wow.
And that's when set construction started, and that's when costume construction started. So it was like 2 months.
Wow, and I mean, that show, everybody in town has been buzzing about how phenomenal it is, saying you should take it on tour. And that is really pivotal for our community, that we have something like that's being created here.
Yeah, and what really turned me on about it is it was, like, so many wonderful, talented people involved and committed. Like, my wardrobe mistress, I would give her ideas, and I think it's really the first time, I mean, in school, yes, but the first time as a grown-up with a grown-up job where we really leaned into what if and the yes and. That, you do, if you've ever been in the arts, you do this yes and exercise as an exercise, but we really did it. And so Amber was like, yeah, and then she'd add to it, and we'd just keep going on. And a huge shout out to Theater Victoria and their volunteers and Michael Tier over there who built our sets for us. And yeah, and Michael did the projections, which was something was completely new to us. And we just kept saying, well, what if this? And is this possible? Because, I mean, what you saw, I am so proud of and I really loved. But I did want, like, a full stage of water, and they told me no to that. So next time, I'm going to earn my water. I'm going to figure out how to fill this stage with water.
It's going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, what I love about what you're saying, too, is that you work with people, but you listen to their feedback, and you guys work together as a team, and you built this out together. And that is something so pivotal for this community to see that example of someone who is creating something new, but they're willing to get feedback and work with others, you know, because it's hard when you create something that's your baby, but to actually let somebody in. And I have so much respect for that because you built it with a team of people and you're acknowledging those people, but it was also something new and innovative. You guys were innovative in this community creating that. And besides creating that, you were also always bringing in really cool people into town. That burlesque, I mean, there's always something really neat going on that's different. And that's what I really like, is that you never know what to expect. And it's exciting. And it's about bringing awareness to Victoria, too, which you do. And I'll touch on the community aspect. You are exactly right. You know, Other communities are great, but I don't know, I feel our community is special, and I'm probably biased, but even, you know, this week when I was in Austin, I missed it, and I came back, and I was like, I got to bring this back to our community. I got to tell people what's happening and figure it out here, and I was excited, and I missed talking to my people or walking downtown. It's like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. You're like, hi, I see you on the street all the time. I'm like, hi. Yeah. So there is something cool in how our community pours into people. That was such a great way that you stated that, because it is true. When I look around this room, I know each one of you that I see out there pours back into this community, back into each other, invest back into everything going on here in some capacity. And that is really special, and that is unique, and that doesn't happen in other communities. And also how you said you're a product of that. I mean, wow, that blew my mind, because I think you are such a great example of why we should take the time for people, why we should listen to their ideas, why we should help them build and continue doing what they're going to do. And I mean, is it almost surreal thinking about the younger you that used to walk around downtown, and now you have this business and you're creating innovations and writing these things that are new? How does that feel?
I don't know. It feels, I mean, because if there's anything that I love as much as dance, it's teaching. Because I was also a school teacher and dance teacher, of course. And I think a lot about, you know, I'm going to say it again, because it was, I think, a very formative experience for me growing up at Nazareth Academy with the nuns, where they talk about teaching, or what you do with your life, as vocation. And I really feel that about what I do. I tell my students all the time, dance is life. Like, regardless of the steps or anything else, every day in that studio, we learn something that you can apply to the rest of your life, whether you're a doctor or whatever. And with this project, that the fact that they not only got to see us create this through collaboration, but be a part of the collaboration, like, to know what can come of that. I mean, I hope they carry that. If they carry that into whatever life they go into, they'll be innovators, right? And so that's the point, is creating these innovators. If they remember this collaborative experience, and then they're working on, I don't know, in a lab somewhere, or on a program, or who knows, making something, that collaboration, because we're stronger together, we have more ideas together. Every time someone's not included in a collaboration, you're missing out. So I just think that's really important for them, and I feel like that's something that was just a natural path. My teacher, Debbie Busby, she always brought in, I mean, she put so many people in my life through dance that shaped me, and they're not even from Victoria, but brought them here, that are still strong mentors of mine, and that continue to pour into me. I'm 47, you know, and they're still like giving. Like, to pass that on, I think, is really important.
No, that is. And, you know, I think it's important, too, is that you've been given to, but like you said, I really like how you give back too. So it doesn't end with you. And the part about collaboration, that is so important. And you're teaching not dance, life skills, things you're going to carry on. And I think too, it's all the people that are involved with you and what you do, it's the example that you lead. It's showing them that, and then they learn that, hey, you can collaborate, you can let others shine, you can work with others. And that's also something so important to carry on throughout their entire life. And so with everything you did, and you said you're a teacher, can you tell me a little bit, like, what school did you go to, and what did that look like for you, and kind of what was your journey with that after high school?
Oh, so after high school, I went to the University of Utah. I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Dance. Although Dad tried really hard to put me in the engineering department. Like they drove me to Utah to the dance program, and Dad walked me to the math building. And let me tell you about that. We found this random professor, Dr. Tucker, who was hanging out. And it just so happened Dr. Tucker was from Texas. So we connected. And I had an honors calculus class that Dr. Tucker taught. And long story short, I did not go into the engineering program. But my freshman year in high school, I had met my husband, and we were supposed to be making the drive back down to Texas from Utah, and his car, died never to rise again.
Oh, no.
And everyone we knew had left town because we only knew other students. And good old Dr. Tucker came and picked us up.
That's awesome.
And got us to the airport to fly home. So it worked out. Everything happens for a reason. I did not become an engineer, but Dr. Tucker saved the day. But anyway, after the University of Utah, and I will say this, I'm not going to, I love Victoria, but as a young person, I do know it's hard growing up here. You can feel, restricted because you don't know what's out there, and you think everything is so much better than it is here. And there's amazing things out there. So I tried to get away from Victoria multiple times. So I went to the University of Utah, and then I went to New York, my husband and I, and we did our acting and dancing thing there and had our food service jobs, just like everyone does. And then we moved back to Victoria and didn't know what we were going to do, so I did the alternative teaching program through Region 3 and through UHB, and I became a special education teacher, which I love, and I am so passionate about that. And then through the ballet theater, I met a gentleman who was director of graduate studies at the University of Iowa. Because of VBT, Victoria Ballet Theater, is part of our national organization where our company goes to dance festivals with people from the arts. Anyway, and he invited me to University of Iowa to audition for the graduate program. And I'm like, oh, we were living here, we had bought a house. And I was like, well, I'm not going unless they pay for it. That's how I told myself. I'm just gonna we'll see. So I took my mom out with me. We went to the University of Iowa. I auditioned, and I was 28, I think at the time, 29. That's old for dance, and that's old for dance graduate school even. So I ended up getting a fellowship and going to the University of Iowa. And danced there and choreographed there, and then moved to New York again, and had a great job. Another crazy story where I was hired by my dad's high school roommate, who was the founding principal of the Celia Cruz Bronx High School of Music.
Wow.
Yeah, so he got me a job because they had a partnership with Lehman College. So I was this grant administrator for some grant at Lehman College, which took 3 hours of my day. And the rest of the day, I could go take dance classes and do whatever I want. So, and then at one point, we just, I missed teaching, and I missed creating. And we had some really great resident artists in graduate school that said, it doesn't matter where you are. It matters that you're making art where you are. And I thought about that a lot when I was living in New York. And I love New York. I visit all the time. But there's, and excuse my language, there's just as much crap art in New York as there is anywhere else in the United States. So it's, sometimes there's all this greatness because of the quantity. So I thought, to come here and make art is much more feasible. I can train the kids and work with them. I'm not paying $500 for studio space, and we were ready to start a family, and I definitely didn't want to do that there. So that's how we ended up back home.
Well, and I think it's so neat how it's all connected. through, the guy that went to high school with your dad, Dr. Tucker, all those things, and how all roads led back to Victoria. And it is interesting because I know when you're in Victoria, I grew up here too, and you get to high school and you're graduating, you're like, I want to leave. I'm never coming back. That was me. I was like, I will never come back there. I'm going to California. I'm doing all the things where I don't know where, but I'm going anywhere but there. And then you get to that point where you realize the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and we do have really special things. And the entry point you can create here, and you have a community to support you. And you're right. Just because we're smaller, I think we have so much talent with music and art and just creativity altogether in our city. I'm always blown away by it. And
people love to come here.
Yes,
Artists
they do.
Love to come here. Like, we bring in people all the time from Houston Ballet, from New York, from Oregon, from all over, and they love Victoria. And as a matter of fact, I always say, it's another thing I tell the kids, Victoria is the center of the universe. Because I don't think I've ever lived or been anywhere where I don't meet someone that knows someone from Victoria.
Oh, that is so true. The good example of that, my brother was like at a random ATM in another state, and someone came up, and it was someone from Victoria. Yep. I've been at the airport at the most strange time in a different city and ran into someone in Victoria. We're a terminal, there's only like 3 people in it. Yep. And they're like, hey, and I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, it's almost like this shock, but I'm not. They're like, my cousin lives in Victoria. I have a friend from Victoria. You say Victoria and someone knows somebody. It's all connected.
Well, Casa de Luna has these bags now. I mean, they don't because I bought them out, but they say Victoria is everything.
I wore mine this weekend when I was in Austin.
I had one to my friend. Yeah, so I will be giving them out to all our guest artists from now on. They're fantastic.
And I love that they're repping the city, too, because Victoria is everything. I do feel that way. And it is interesting when you bring people from out of town. They're like, this place is great, man, and they have the best time. And I'm like, please tell our other locals this so they can see, because I think it is hard when you're bogged down in, you're working all the time, and especially if you've grown up here, maybe it's harder to see how beautiful our city is or how great, or
it's easy to take it for granted.
Yes, to take it for granted, exactly. But I think once you really start looking around, and it's fun to show people around, like, look at our beautiful park. Do you see that river? Look at this cute business. And
or like we had a guest artist when the Mel Chin exhibit was out just
that's fantastic
downtown, and it's someone who's from New York, and they're like, wasn't that in Times Square? I was like, yes. But now it's in Victoria.
And that's what's great is there's
by the way, he was here too.
There's so many unexpected things that you just don't know. They're like, oh, this person was here. And, there's like at the Mother Cluckers Festival the other day, that guy that was on Saturday Night Live, that was that jazz musician. And they sent me, they're like, this guy was here in town. And so there's so many different people that come in, and there's projects going on. And it really is a great city that will support you, and it is wonderful. And so talking about your journey through college and everything you did, somebody graduating college today, what advice would you give them?
Do what you want to do. Like, that's,
love that.
I tell my kids all the time, like, I get them in when they're getting ready to go to college or when they're getting ready to graduate college and they're panicked. Or like, and it's hard. It's hard sometimes for parents to encourage kids in a degree in the arts. But I'll say this, I've never not had a job. I've never not had health insurance. I've never not been able to pay my bills. So I tell them that, I tell their parents that. But I also say, look, it's hard. Like, dance is hard. And if the conversation you need to have with your parents is too hard, then it's not the thing for you. Like, the first thing you have to do is have that conversation with their parents. You have to, like, because they love you, you're gonna whatever. They're gonna support you if you can get that across. But also, like, I think sometimes it's hard for kids, especially post-COVID. There's like so much trauma. But these kids are in the habit of being successful. They're successful. They've done this and this and this. So sometimes I feel like, why would you even assume you'd fail? You know how to succeed. You're in the habit. You could go into Starbucks right now, in 3 months you'd be manager. Like, I know you don't think you want to work at Starbucks, but it's not a bad job. So, like, I tell them, especially when they're looking at colleges, find somewhere you want to live. Find a place. I mean, do what you want to do, and the rest will come. They're like, I feel like people come out of Victoria, and they're ready. I think they get intimidated sometimes to go out into the bigger world.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I think once they do it, then they see like, oh, okay, I did this, and then a lot of them, like us, they come back because they bring back that knowledge and what they've learned, which is really a cool thing. And I think, you know, talking about dance and you're talking about skills, for all of those out there watching, what are some skills that people take away when they do dance?
Oh gosh. Okay.
I know there's tons. I know
there's tons. Well, everyone loves to talk about discipline, but I think it's more. I don't really think discipline's the right word. I think it's rigor. You know, and I think of dance, especially when you talk about dancers training daily, as a meditative process, or like where you have to be aware because you have to go in and you're doing this thing that really is kind of the same thing every day, like you would when you're training to play piano or play another instrument. And then how do you bring awareness to this thing? How do you block everything else out and focus on this one thing for the next 2 hours? And that is something that they're going to have to learn to do anywhere in life. And they learn to pick something to do that they love and that they're passionate about it, and learn that it's not always easy, and that's what makes it fun. I tell the girls, it's fun to do hard things. You know, it doesn't seem like it when you're in the middle. It's fun to be good at something, but it takes hard work to be good at something. And they learn to navigate different personalities, navigate each other, the ups and downs. I mean, casting, things like that. That's always going to, there's going to be a mirror for that in the real world. They learn to collaborate. I always say this when I would apply for jobs, like I've directed a show, so I know how to manage many teams of people on different things and keep them on task and have a production and then clean up at the end, you know, and they can do that anywhere. We have a kid working in the White House right now that graduated, so.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere, doctors.
Well, and I think
lawyers.
that's important to show that dance, I think sometimes when people get involved in something, it can be kind of that tunnel vision of, okay, dance, you have the skill of dance, but there's so much that comes with that really carries through your entire life.
Well, and especially, I mean, I might go on a little soapbox right now, but especially for young women to do something daily that they practice that gives them such power and ownership of their body, and that kind of self-confidence and self-worth that comes from that just naturally, not by someone telling you to be self-confident, but that you build it. That's
important.
Rare, and it's really important. It's really important they have that agency of their own bodies, and to learn that, like, here's this seemingly impossible task, blah, 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 dance step, and that in 3 weeks I have made myself do it. I have figured out how to make myself do it. That's like superhero stuff, I feel like.
And that feeling of accomplishment, I think that's so important, and to take ownership of accomplishing a goal and actually reaching that goal. And so now, what if someone older wants to take dance? They always dreamed of being a ballerina. Is there an age limit on dance, or can you just dance at any age?
Oh my gosh. I started following, so I do have adult classes. I have adult tappers and ballet dancers, and it's awesome. It feels good. I love it. I take the class with them. I just kind of call out what we're doing.
That's so cool.
But what's it called? There's a Instagram feed called something, oh my gosh, I can't ever remember words. Something Swans, and it's like this class of like 30 silver-haired ladies in their leotards and long skirts and ballet shoes and just waltzing to different Tchaikovsky. It is beautiful, and it's so awesome, that feeling, you know, in ballet or any dance. There's this other lady, Miss Kim something, and she does hip hop. And she, you know, to see people just like still moving.
Well, and that's what's fantastic is I think sometimes people can get in their minds like, oh, dance is for when you're little and you're a ballerina or you're going through high school. But it's for any age. And it's so great that you do adult classes, and she will get in the class with you. That's something that's so great about her, because I did that one burlesque class she had. It was so much fun, but she was right there with us. And so I really love that you do that, because you have that energy and you're just learning too and getting in there, even though you've done dance forever. And I love she cheers everybody on. It's so much fun. If you're an adult and you want to take a class, I highly recommend it, because I remember I went home and I told Bryce, I was like, that was one of the most fun things I've done in so long. It was so cool. And all the women were supporting each other, cheering each other on. It was really beautiful. And when you talk about that empowerment, there is something special about dance and movement and working as a team together and cheering each other on that makes you feel so good. Everyone left there smiling, feeling empowered, feeling really just
And no judgment.
And
like,
no judgment
by
zone.
learning, like creating, I think that's one thing when starting my school that I am still working on, but being really conscious of, is creating an environment of empowerment and equity and diversity and a place to encourage people, to encourage others. Like when you learn to get into this space and not judge others, you learn to not judge yourself. And it's a vulnerable thing to be in a room where it's one whole wall is mirrors and you might feel half naked. Like that can be intimidating. But once you get past that also, it can be very empowering.
And so what would be your advice for somebody wanting to start their own business? Because, you went from your job doing everything and then you started your own. So the pathway that you took and everything you've learned, what would be kind of your little nugget of knowledge that you would give to somebody?
Okay, I would say do your research, because that was one thing.
That's definitely a good one.
I think part of that came from I was very intimidated at first because I felt like I didn't know. Like I thought, oh God, do I need to go back to school? Do I need to get an MBA? What do I have to do to start this business? And Vanessa told me, you've been doing this. You've been running a nonprofit, you've been running a studio, it's just going to be different. So really doing my research and also leverage your social capital. People, especially in this community, want to help you.
So true.
Don't be afraid to ask someone that you know is a CPA or a banker or a lawyer or someone that has a business. What are your, Don Poor.
He's great.
He's great. He is the father of 2 girls that I taught. And I knew them that way. I knew him. We had traveled to New York before. I had no idea that Don taught for the business school at Rice at all. I don't know how I didn't know that. But I knew he was a business owner. So I said, hey, Don, can I take you to coffee one day? And I want to ask you about this. And that man, I have gotten a master class in business. And he's still, I have assignments I turn into him still. I still have to turn in my spreadsheets. And we meet monthly. He has invested in me so much. And I would have never had that had I not just asked.
Well, and he was our first Fireside Chat speaker.
I know.
And he was so great. I mean, his knowledge, like you said, his work he does with Rice, and he's willing to sit down and let you pick his brain and mentor you and coach you. And that's what's really great is people in our community, once again. I love that we both keep coming back to that, but it's true. There's so many great programs in our community, great people to connect with, people that are willing to take the time. That's the most valuable thing really somebody can give you is their knowledge and time, and people here are willing to invest in you in that way.
Well, and I've never had anyone tell me no. And they say, well, I don't know, or maybe you should, I got maybe pushed onto another idea. I think that's one thing that you're really great at, that you've inspired in this community, is people just asking for help or reaching out to someone. And I sometimes think as a town where it's a lot of people that are from here and have been here, there's not a lot of newcomers, as we say. Although there is, but we adopt them and we don't call them newcomers anymore. But it's easy to get stuck in we haven't done that before. This is different. But more and more that's changing in this community. I think we can see that a lot with the growth at UHV. We can see it with the growth downtown. We can see it with what you're doing with Innovation Collective, the art walks. I mean, all this is stuff that I think 10 years ago wouldn't have been possible. People had a different mindset. So it's been really nice. But I've never not reached out to someone and not been able to find help.
Well, and that's the thing. Most people are willing to. And it's just you have to get that idea out and actually tell somebody. And, I always compare to no idea is a bad idea. It might need tweaking or something, but let's get it out and figure it out. I mean, if Elf on the Shelf can make it, I always use that because most of you all know about that Elf on the Shelf. If that's a super successful company, tell me your idea because it's an elf that's on a shelf, so.
Well, they told me no to the water on stage.
Well, I mean,
But I had projection of water. It was okay. But
so we need to get her water on stage.
That's they could have solved my problem, but probably none of the other sets would have gotten built. So, yeah.
And talking about the community and everything that's going on here, I think it's a perfect time to discuss where do you see our community going in the next 5 years? And well, what do you hope it looks like? And what change do you hope keeps progressing here in our community?
Well, I was just talking to Kate. I am so jazzed about the downtown development project.
So exciting.
I mean, just because I love downtown. I love downtown. And so I love it, this idea of like gathering space, you know, and even more, I would love to see more. I was telling my husband today, I think our park would be a perfect miniature ACL.
I agree wholeheartadly with that.
Like, there's so much, and we know artists love to come here. We know I mean, I think that it's limitless what we can do, because it seems like we're in this space and time right now in Victoria where there's so many open minds and so many people willing to collaborate and work together, and it's really exciting. I see people coming up, like at Innovation Collective, at the Coffee and Concepts, people coming up with ideas all the time, and then the next week, they're doing it. There's a business, or there's something. It's like fascinating to me. It took me 47 years.
Yeah. Well, it is great, though, because she'll sit in Coffee and Concepts, and then she's like, yeah, do it. And she's like, hey, I have this connection. But that's what it's about, is it's open to sharing and not just shooting somebody down being like, that's a horrible idea. Because, you never know. Sometimes you hear some ideas and you think to yourself, how is that ever going to work? And then people do it because in their mind they have it mapped out. They have a whole business plan. And then you're like, oh, that does make sense. So I've learned never to shoot it down. Maybe just talk about it, and once they get it out. But it's phenomenal where they come one week, and then, it's the first and third Wednesday of every month. And so the next one, we have one tomorrow morning for anyone that wants to come, 7:30 a.m. in here. But they'll announce what they're working on the next week. They're like, okay, so I found a building, and now I'm doing this, and I have this business partner, and it's someone they just met the last week. But it's like ends up really good. It's the wildest thing.
That's like, okay, I'm going to call out Jen Whelan here. Is one of my dance parents.
Hi, Jen.
And she came in to help backstage with, she has a background in cosmetology and hair, and if you saw the show, there's a lot of wigs involved and hair, and they don't necessarily come looking the way you want them to look. So I had Jen, and then Kelly Kelly Pierce from Fringe Salon come to help with the hair and clip it for the girls and style it, and the gentlemen. And they met, and now Jen is going to be working at Fringe with Kelly.
That's amazing.
I'm like, wait a minute, you just met 2 weeks ago. That's how it happens. It's Victoria.
Yeah, it does. And, you're kind of like, hey, I'm kind of doing this thing. And it's like, I like that thing, too. Well, maybe we should do the thing, And, and then all of a sudden I see a sign on a door, and I'm like, what? Y'all are doing the thing? That's so great. But that's... You have an entry point that's accessible here. You have ways to do things, and I look at it's a diamond here, and like you said, the ACL, I'm like, yes, please. We have this park. We have a whole thing. If you dream it, you can do it here. It's really possible, and it's through the support of the community and the support of everybody that really we have magic here, and you can't explain it until you're in your community. And like you said, the people that come in, they're like, I just had the best time. I got a phone call yesterday. It's like, I'm missing Victoria, man. That community, because you walk in and the business owners are welcoming, the community's welcoming. It is something really amazing to see.
And having I sometimes think that this is like a bounce back from COVID. Because we kind of, before COVID, we were all in our little pockets and
little silos,
a little separate, and we got a real taste of what it's like to be shut off. And now we're, I think, more open to moving around with each other. And I don't know, I just think it's really fantastic.
And it takes, I want to tell you thank you, because it takes people like you that people poured into you, but it didn't stop there. You're continuously pouring back into other people in the community, and you're creating things, and you're a visionary. And it's something that really keeps the forward motion going in our community. And so I just want to tell you thank you so much for that. It's really... Every time, I see you, she's like, hi, Krista, how you doing? How are things? And you just spread this energy and light, and you're genuine. And there's something really to be said. So I really want to take a moment to say, I see you, I recognize you, and I appreciate all that you do.
I appreciate that. I will say, I think it's a lot of having people tell you, yes, you can. And I think about that. I watched that movie finally last night, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Have you seen that? And they talk about all these multiverses that happen every time you make a choice or every time something happens, right? It splinters off, and then there's different yous. And I feel like I'm the me. Every time I wanted to do something crazy, someone said, all right, well, how are you going to do it? And like encourage me. My parents, they really didn't tell me no. I can remember one time I wanted to go to some dance workshop, and I'm pretty sure they didn't want me to go or something. And Dad was like, you need to write me a paper. You need to write me a paper. So sure enough, I wrote that dang paper. And so, at school, they'd be like, oh, God, this is the best one. At St. Joe, when I went to St. Joe, we couldn't wear shorts. And we complained and complained, and our student council leader, Mr. Friedel, said, well, then you'll need to come up with a concept, and you have to present to the board, and blah, blah. And sure enough, we did, and we got our shorts.
All right.
So it wasn't a no.
So St. Joe students, you need to thank this group right here.
Every time you tell a kid yes, or how, not no, but how are you going to make that happen? How can we workshop that? What are you going to do? That creates more possibility. And I think that's what Innovation Collective has done. Because even sometimes, I'll be honest, I sit in those coffees and people stand up and say something, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm going to stay positive. But it's so powerful because all you need is one person to say, like with Alice, I would have never in my mind thought that choreographing a full-length ballet was possible for me. I just didn't. And 2 or 3 years ago, I was with another director at one of these RDA festivals, and she's like, we have done a ballet. You could totally do a ballet. I was like, I don't think so. And she's like, yes, it's easy, and da-da-da-da. And just that one little seed, started to germinate and grow to where when I came to my board, and I was like, well, I think I could. Well, at the time, I thought I could save us a little money by me doing it myself. And little did I know how the whole production would turn out. But I said, well, I'm thinking about doing this. And they were like, yes, totally, okay, da-da-da. And so it's all those yeses that led to what people saw.
Well, and it's empowering, just like you said, even at Coffee and Concepts, when someone can stand up and speak it, and everybody's like, yeah, hey, great. We don't know if it's going to go somewhere or not. We always hope it does, but they speak it, and then they start working on it, and it's that empowerment of somebody actually wanting to just even listen to your idea, and then to say, sure, let's check it out, let's investigate it more. And I think it's with adults and kids, right? That across the board, when you tell someone no, and they've been working on something so hard, and then they shut them down, that usually keeps them, this wall, it builds it up to where then they're not doing anything because they're afraid, well, my ideas are stupid, I'm not going to share them. So I think it's that moment where they believe it is possible. And what you did, you allowed the team of people and even the kids involved to be part of building something. Sure. And that empowers them, and they're going to take that through the rest of their life. I know probably for me, I remember things that happened all the way from when I was little when someone believed in me. There is a truth to believing in people and making them feel possible, and thank you for helping people believe in themselves, and the community believe that we can have these ballets and we can do all these things and we can have that beauty brought to our community. It's really special. Thank you.
It's no secret that Americans are always connected to their devices. Phones, tablets, and connected TV devices like Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. Reaching consumers through video has never been more complicated. That's why there's now Thrive Fuel Every Screen. With every screen, you can reach the right audience on every device at the right time. Target physical addresses using GPS data to serve video ads at scale and with precision. Bring the science of behavioral and demographic targeting to your video campaigns. Every screen combines OTT, CTV, internet pre-roll, and social video all in one place. Make the most of your video marketing strategy with Thrive Fuel Every Screen. Available now.